Welcome to another episode of Art One on One. I'm your pod boss, Nicole Jordan, a artist and master educator and cowboy today, Mr. Burgher.
Cowboy elite.
Cowboy elite. What is that?
I'm an elite
Crazy
cowboy. That's what it means. I am a cowboy that is elite with what I do. So that's why they call me the cowboy elite.
All right. Well, there you have it.
We've been watching some Willie Nelson.
Got our Willie Nelson
Thus,
shirts on.
Post Willie. The name of this episode is Post Willie, and the reason for that is because this is after our
We went to the concert last night.
Yes.
And I have mixed feelings about it. It was good. I really enjoyed it. But I wish I would have saw him. Like I kind of wish I would have saw him in his prime. Experience that I am to go was
correct
to experience at this
91
age. Right,
icon and legend. So to be able to go and see him in concert, there were other competing country and western type concerts going on, and I can't tell you that I'm a country fan.
And I am.
Not tell you that I am, but what I can tell you is that my parents were not. My dad was not, and I grew up listening to his songs in passing, and my dad was more of a Johnny Cash.
Yeah, Johnny Cash was good too.
Statler Brothers, Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh my goodness, they have the best Christmas CDs back in the day.
More of a who else am I? Ronnie Millsap. You know, my parents listened to a lot of the old school country of, you know, Waylon Jennings and that.
Is that their main? Was country their thing?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that they were into the. I suppose like the Elvis Presley and that sort of thing. But then after that kind of went through they grew up in the 50s. That kind of evolved into them appreciating country music. But again, more of the highwayman style, outlaw country.
Yeah. It was good. It was relaxing. It was a beautiful night. It was fun to hear him and see him, and
so to go and to get my Willie Nelson koozie and my Willie Nelson shirt and my Willie Nelson bandana.
Okay, here's the funny story around this. So we're in line for a while.
Willie Nelson.
I got my Willie Nelson shirt on. I love the shirt. So we're in line for quite a while, and he's like,
a little while.
I don't know. I don't think I can spend $40 on a t-shirt. That'd be the most I've ever spent on a t-shirt.
I said it would be the second most I've ever spent on a t-shirt.
Second most expensive t-shirt. He just didn't know if he was going to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, like, do you even want to stay in line? Because if you're not going to get anything. And he gets up there and he's like, I'll take a t-shirt and a bandana and a koozie and a sweatshirt and a...
No.
I mean,
I said
mostly
things.
Everything.
I didn't say
I think he spent like $300 up there.
I did not come close to spending $300. I did spend, because you said that shirt looks like that's something you would wear.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it probably is. So I bought the t-shirt. I wanted to get the bandana for no particular reason, but I got the bandana, and I thought, the koozie. I'll get the koozie.
So he went from not going to spend $40 on a t-shirt.
I was set on the koozie and the bandana. You talked me into the t-shirt.
I don't think I talked you into anything.
I did. You did.
You're like a quick spender, like what's that called?
I'm a bit of a splurger, not a splurger, but a compulsive buyer.
Yes, compulsive buyer. Yeah. You are like that, but you don't spend money for a long, long time, and you're pretty conservative, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I ordered this tie or this random hat. Remember the hat you just ordered?
I did order. Actually, I ordered a hat to go to this particular event.
Oh, that's what it was for?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the coolest looking hat online. It really was. It was like, I was like, oh, that's sweet. I like that. And he orders it. And a couple weeks later, 3 weeks later, something like that.
Junk.
Oh my God. It was so not what, like, it was made of crap material and nothing like the hat looked online.
It was garbage.
You learn your lesson about reading the
and
reviews.
the thing is, like, well, number one, read the reviews. Pay attention to what people say about whatever.
A business, a vendor.
Right. But also, buyer beware when you're buying off of a social media website. You know, get some, yeah.
It was bad.
The hats were.
You should have brought that out here.
The hat, the photo of the hat looked sweet. The actual product that I received was.
It was crazy.
Horrible.
It was like a kindergartner made it.
It was a felt crap hat.
Yes, felt.
It was like an arts and crafts project. That, I mean, if a kindergartner had made it, it'd be pretty impressive. But if you buy it from a store online, not quite so impressive. But so I went back to the old, because I didn't want to wear this big leather hat. But then I thought, there's nothing wrong with this hat. So I just wore this hat.
And we went to grad parties. Him wearing that.
Ooh, I don't understand what's wrong with that.
Oh my gosh.
If that's what I'm wearing for the day.
Someone help me. We need some interaction here on that, because so I'm dressed up to go to grad parties and he is wearing, and it was 75 degrees yesterday, almost 80, I think. And he's got jeans, big old cowboy boots, an art t-shirt, like 3/4 t-shirt, and then a flannel.
It wasn't
with
wool.
What material is that then?
Well,
okay, not wool, but
it was like
winter.
Lined. It was like a lined
fleece. That's what it was. So it was a fleece flannel, and then that hat that I had to go to graduation parties because he didn't want to change before he went to the Willie Nelson concert.
You didn't have to.
The things I put up with you, I don't know.
You didn't have to.
I didn't have to what?
You didn't. I mean, you didn't have to make me go to these graduation parties. Number one.
Oh, there it is. Number one.
And secondly,
number two.
If I went, I don't tell you what to wear. You wear ridiculous things.
I don't ever tell you what to wear.
You clearly that's untrue.
I tell you if I don't like what you're wearing, which is maybe.
But clearly that's untrue based upon the evidence provided.
Okay, normally I do not tell you what to wear because I know you're going to do what you want to do.
And the other thing is, ladies and gentlemen at home, today you told me what to wear. You
didn't wear what I asked you to wear. I didn't tell you what to wear. I said I didn't want you to wear that, and you still wore it.
No, that's not true.
Last night?
Today,
yes, but it was my son's graduation.
I think you said your exact words were, "I'm putting my foot down on what you're wearing today."
Yes. Well, okay, today was a little bit. I mean, a lot of
folks, if your significant other says, "I'm putting my foot down on what you're wearing,"
it's a red flag.
Is that
oh goodness.
And that's 2 days in a row that you've put your foot down.
I mean, we're meeting a lot of people you've never met before.
I don't care.
And normally I don't care either, like that but
normally I don't care.
I think a fleece lined flannel when it's 80 out.
I was comfortable. Prepared for hot or cold.
Blizzard in the summer.
Stranger things have happened. As a matter of fact, when we were leaving the concert, you said, "Oh, it's a little chilly."
But I had a sweater. I mean,
and so did I.
You were so prepared.
I was.
Thank goodness. All right, enough.
So back to the actual reason people are trying to listen to this. We're about 10 minutes in, and we haven't even started talking about art beyond Willie Nelson. So, Willie, thank you for watching and subscribing to the Art One-on-One channel. You might not know this. Willie Nelson is a YouTuber, and
is he on YouTube?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
People,
yeah, he's not. He's not. 91, he's maybe viewing some stuff, but he's not uploading. And
What was your favorite song you played last night?
I don't know. I mean, him playing like the classics of, like On the Road Again or whatever. I think that
Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die. That was probably the most popular one, I would say.
I think a lot of people like
people
that
got
one.
active when that one came on.
I think a lot people like that one. I wouldn't say that that's a song that I'm particularly familiar with.
Yeah, I was not either,
but I like I said, like he played Bobby McGee, which is a Janis Joplin tune. He did a cover of that. I thought that was kind of cool. There were a couple of another couple songs that he played that I don't know the names of that I thought were good. But because of the Willie Nelson concert, on top of the last days of teaching in school, on top of graduations, on top of all of the other things, we thought that instead of putting out a substandard product that was
a substandard product, we would create a live substandard product. I don't know why you feel like you have to justify doing a live.
Maybe I don't.
I mean, you obviously feel like you have to justify it, and I honestly sometimes prefer the lives over, and I think you would too, because you don't have to edit for.
That's true, but the thing is, like, I like to have the thing I like about the
I know what you're gonna say.
The saved product is that I can insert the pictures and I can do all of that. The downside is there's 5 people watching this right now, and of those 5 people that are watching at home, I can say hello.
That's the upside, not the downside.
That's the positive.
You said the downside.
Well, that is the downside too, because there's people watching this, and
you can't edit it.
You could, and I can't edit out if we make a mistake.
Yeah. Jump into Ask the Art Guide. Upside down too.
I went to my friends at Lawrence King Publishing and asked them to provide.
Yes, we need some new ones.
I said, hey, what are you doing there, fellers? Let's get some stuff going, and they have yet to respond.
All right.
But
anyway. I chose Buckminster Fuller today.
Buckminster Fuller.
And shocker, I have no idea who that is.
And I don't either. I'm not exactly sure what type of art he does or creates or makes.
Well, let me tell you, it was interesting to.
But you looked it up.
I did, as I usually do, and I looked it up. And it's crazy to me why they put him on here, because he seems like more of an inventor, more of a less of an art person and more of an inventor, social thinker. But they do call him like a designer, an inventor, a social thinker. He was all about like efficiency and sustainability and.
Okay. So what are the 3 quotes? There's the life, the work, and the inspiration. Where are we going with the conversation that Buckminster Fuller is leading us down today?
It is, I don't know which one it is. It's the I one. Which one is that one? Art.
Oh my God.
The life, the works, or what's the other one? Inspiration. Here's what I chose. Great heights are best seen from your lowest point.
Our lowest point. Dumping all those damned cards.
Oh my gosh. And I can't pick them up. Nobody knows.
It's not about picking them up. It's about the fact that they were in a particular order.
No, the ones we haven't done yet are in there. So we're good.
Okay. Well, as long as you know what's going on, my God.
All right. You ready to listen?
Yes, I'm trying. I was trying to stay focused. We got dogs barking. We got people walking around.
No,
we got the sun's going down.
The dogs are going to be barking.
It's complete anarchy.
So great heights are best seen from your lowest point.
Great heights
are best seen from your lowest point.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, for me, that's like, it's saying like in the through this, and why me, and you never think you're going to get through really tough times, right? But maybe this isn't, but the truth of the matter is, it's like where your biggest growth is, right? Like looking back, usually something really good happens out of it, there's some type of growth or some type of expansion, or you learned something, or you changed, or you evolved to get through it. Right? It was the hardest time, but usually
Right.
really good things come out of it.
Yeah.
So
And this is why editing is important.
it'll
We
be
got
okay.
we got bugs, we got dogs, we got
Yeah,
yeah.
it is a day probably, and it's
God,
a beautiful day. So
it is a nice day, but it doesn't change the fact that I can't edit any of
I
it.
mean,
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. I mean, I think that, I've noticed in watching some of my, it's interesting what you observe in watching yourself provide content like this, like little things that I say, like, I think I say that a lot. I talk a lot about what I think, which is the definition of a podcast.
yeah.
And it's interesting in a previous episode, and I can't remember exactly which one of the viewers of the podcast wrote some, quite frankly, a stupid ass comment. It was stupid. They said something about opinions. Like, you, you know, um, you're just sharing your opinion. And are you familiar with what a podcast is?
What is the definition of a podcast?
I
I don't
mean,
really know.
a
The way to
digital.
share your
Yeah, they're really it's a really it's like art. What is art? Well, there's lots of definitions. There's like podcast has kind of evolved, but generally speaking, it's somebody expressing opinions about what they think about a given topic.
or sharing their knowledge on a
But
given
again,
topic.
knowledge and opinions and insights and
Right.
all of those things. I'm sharing my belief system, my where I'm coming from on the topic of art.
Okay.
That could be right, that could be wrong, that could be interpreted in lots of different ways. You might not see art the way I see art, and I might not see, you know.
Yeah.
But the point is that at the end of the day, uh, that's why we're here to express our opinions and insights and belief
What does that have to
systems.
do with the?
Nothing.
Yes, it did. You were going down that path because of that
No,
comment.
it had nothing
You
to
were
do.
like how you evolved. You were saying because you used to say, or you say something all the time. What did you just
I
say?
say lots of things all the time. I say what I think.
Yeah, but you were going down that path because you were
I
going to
wasn't.
talk about how you evolved on.
I wasn't.
Then you're not going to talk about the.
I am. I will. But right now, I'm not. I'm just kind of going on a tangent.
You,
And that's the way the podcast works.
you're always going on tangents.
That's just how it works. Kid. Sometimes old Mr. Burgher has to just let you. Yeah.
Long like that. Like okay, to it.
When you look and you reflect on where I was at my worst point. I was there, and look where I got.
Yeah.
Unless, and you were like, point is right now. Look how great I used to be, and it's not. Well, I think whatever I did, I think I've paired it with my other internet. So
Back.
I think we're back in effect here. So
Okay. Do you want me to repeat what I asked, or you
after,
just want to move on to
well,
something else?
now that I think we're back into the real world of what we're doing. Go ahead and let's. I don't know where that started lagging out, but okay. So we talked about the perspective of viewing life, you know, from your lowest point, and if your highest point is before or after the lowest point.
Right. I get what you're saying.
And so that's kind of where I was going with my thought
It
process.
depends on where you're at
in your life. So
Right.
yeah, so if you're looking back at your lowest point, and you're thinking, "Gosh, this is where I was, and this is where I got to," versus this is where I was, and here's where I ended up. That's kind of where I left off, and then you wanted to jump in and kind of tie it in as a blessed helicopter flies over. Not the dogs, not the families, not the dogs, and the now it's a helicopter. This is why we have to edit.
Well, we can wait till it goes by.
So now,
It's only temporary.
now, everything that can
Shaking
happen,
the ground.
anything that can happen, is
It's
now
okay.
okay.
All I was alluding to is like I think sometimes when you're in it, like, and years go by and you feel like you're going nowhere,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you look back and like you're at a high point or like your highest point, and you realize like all the little things along the way that you accomplished, but you didn't feel like you were doing anything like or growing or learning or evolving. And as an artist, I was asking you if you ever felt that way or if you could relate to that. Or
I think there are lots of times as artists that I'll look back at certain points of my life, and sometimes there's this idea of, here's where I was and here's how I've gotten better. Sometimes it's honestly, sometimes it's a what do they call that? It's imposter syndrome,
yeah,
where it's like, you think this is what I'm doing and this is the art that I'm making, and this is really good, and then you're like, uh I know my art is good and I think that it should be selling for XYZ, or I should be in shows, I should be, and then you're like, maybe I'm a fake, maybe I'm a phony, maybe I'm a fraud, I'm an imposter, I'm not a real artist. Um so I think that there is some of that. I think that sometimes artists suffer from imposter syndrome, and sometimes that gets the best of us. I mean, even really, really great artists. I mean, quite frankly, I can think of 4 or 5 artists that were huge names, including, but not limited to, Jackson Pollock, who saw himself as an imposter. Like, all I can do is drip paint. That's my thing. What else can I do? Well, anything else that I try, people hate. So I think he felt some of that. And again, just naming one out of many, many, many artists that probably have that sort of feeling of, imposter syndrome, I guess, for
or
lack of
just not thinking you're enough or what you're doing is enough or good enough or
right.
whatnot. Well, I don't think I mean in regards to Buckminster Fuller, I mean this guy seemed like, I know you don't know him, but just like diving into his background, I thought he was way cool. Like he was very much a forward thinker, very intuitive. He was the one that designed the geodesic dome, like all the domes that we see, like the big
Geodesic dome.
yes, like the big domes that he basically used, which is kind of going to interact with the video I chose from Journey of the Archive, but he was very interested in like what the world, like what the earth could provide as far as like learning geometric patterns and how things were created by nature. And he built things based on that approach. Like he was very into the earth, sustainability, but like nature's geometric patterns, and then designing
Okay.
structures based on nature, like checking out nature. So the dome, I
Is
could
that
be
like
incorrect, but like
is
that's what's on there. Obviously,
is that like the
that's what's on the
dome?
card.
the dome like you'd find at
Like I think of Epcot Center, like
right.
yeah,
I was thinking. I mean, I was thinking like the zoo. You know,
yeah,
how they have those
like in
big,
Omaha.
or
Yes,
yeah, like where they got the big bubble with the birds and things and the trees and whatnot.
yes, yes.
Yeah. That, I mean, I don't know if that's.
I don't know. He just had a very forward thinking approach. He thought about how the world was very interconnected and like solving the world's problems and the earth's problems had to be a collective because we're all one, which like for that time, for the time that he was around, is very forward thinking.
What was the time?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I
Well,
can
then,
tell by
but you're saying
I
for
could
the
only tell by the videos.
for
I know
the
what you're
for the
saying.
time that he lived in. Well, did he live in the 1900s or did he live in the?
I don't know. I just know
I
by
mean,
the videos I was looking at. The videos were very old. Like the videos about him and like the interviews with him were
Yeah.
very old. I don't know. That's a good question. I could go back and look,
I
but
don't know either.
but that brings me to your journey into the archive video.
Journey into the archives. One of our longest. What is the thing I say?
Running segments.
Longest running segments. I think there's something else that I say about Journey into the Archives. Anyway, in journey in our Journey into the Archives segment, you go back into the archives of Art 101
I did not go back very far, but
and dig up the goodies.
yes, this one, it's like again, it's always so interesting how we pull a card and it has like aligned with because I did not like I pulled the card and then I looked at the video and it's called A Series of Three Wave Fields. You remember the artist?
Oh yeah, Mia Lin.
Yes. I don't you pronounced her name different and you said Maya one time and you said Mia one time in the video, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well because I don't know.
Myelin. So she did a
Myelin,
series of
myelin.
3 wave fields, which she used the earth as her medium, whatever you say. She did one in Michigan. She did one in Miami, Florida, and then her last one was in New York.
There
So
you go.
you can talk a little bit about those.
Well, I mean she made the Vietnam War Memorial. She made a Martin Luther King Memorial in Alabama. She's done public art like that, and she's made this earthwork of wave fields, and so I made a little video on it. I mean, I don't. I've never visited them. It'd be kind of cool to see.
What
them.
is it? So the New York
The closest
one at
one
the
is
New York
probably
Art Institute?
Michigan. I believe it's at the University
It is
in
Ann
Ann
Arbor.
Arbor.
Ann Arbor, and that one's the smallest one. So that one has like
And
waves.
I think that's the first one.
Yep, the first one and the smallest one. Each one she progressively got bigger, like more land, and then bigger waves. And then the very last one was 240,000 square feet.
Holy mackerel! That's
waves 10 to 15 feet high.
a big one.
My favorite one was the second one that she did in Florida, and it was like supposed to be waves over sand, and it is very cool. I mean, it was very cool. Very different.
Yeah, she does a nice. That was the one in Miami, right?
Yes.
No.
Yep. It was the one
that's
called
not her
Water
biggest,
Over Sand.
but
Not the biggest one.
That's
I
not the
didn't say
biggest
that.
one.
I said that was her middle one in Miami, Florida, where she did the Water Over Sand.
Okay.
And looking at it from above, it's a very cool. It does. It just looks like the ripples of water when you're standing, which the beach is one of my favorite places. So
it makes sense that you would have a tie to that.
it definitely was one that. What other pieces of earthworks? I know we've talked about some before. I know you've done some videos on, but have you been to any in person?
Earthworks?
Yeah.
Again, I think sometimes it's interesting, like how you define what an earthwork is and how you define. Have you ever been to one? I mean, we've all been to the beach.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are, for example, is Mount Rushmore an earthwork?
For sure.
Okay, I've been there.
Okay.
So I think that there are sometimes like we get this definition of what an earthwork is, is Mount Rushmore. It's more of a monument. It's kind of a sculpture. It's
But
kind
it's
of a.
from the earth. It's using the materials from the earth. So why
But
would
okay, here's the next thing. If I have a piece of clay pottery or a piece of clay sculpture, that is clay, not from the earth. Yes, it is.
well, would you
So I've dug it
yeah.
up. Now I've taken it into my home. I've created something out of it. Now I'm distributing
maybe
it.
it's still attached to the earth. Maybe it's still
I don't think that a piece of
foundationally.
pottery is up in outer space floating around.
No.
It's on the earth. It's attached.
Sometimes it's so hard to.
Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but I'm just saying, like, maybe earthworks are like.
Heard it here first. Not wrong.
And this is why sometimes I get so frustrated.
But I think that,
you.
like I said, like the idea of what an earthwork is, like in terms of what we're talking about, I mean, without being too crazy literal, an earthwork can be lots of different things and it can be seen in lots of different directions. And a lot of like the engineers and the artists and the designers that go into creating water retention ponds, or I mean, that's kind of an earthwork.
Well, and that's kind of like that Buckminster Fuller. Like, he designed things like that, but he used certain, like, that is that an artist? I don't know. That I just thought that was weird that they included him as one of his, because he was more of an architect or designing, like you were talking about. But is that art? I guess. I don't know. Depends on what your definition is of, like you said, of art or artworks or earthworks.
For sure. And I think when, as I've said that I say a lot, and I do say this a lot, but as I've said before, I think that there are lots of different ways to approach art. There are lots of different ways that artists make what they make. And it's easy to want to pigeonhole artists into categories, but sometimes it's hard for artists to fit in those categories. So what I mean by that is, and again, this is why editing is good, because I got an idea in my head and it's like I kind of got to work it out a little bit. But the idea to me is like an artist that I've been looking at quite a bit recently, doing a lot of research on, is an artist by the name of Jim Dine. And he did paintings and he did drawings. He's still alive and working, but his work is a lot of different things. Sometimes it's abstract and sometimes it's pop art and sometimes it's lots of different things. And so you say, okay, well, what kind of artist is he? Well, he's lots of different things. And so we think about things like earthworks. What is an earthwork or what is it not? And then it's like, it's like when every dog in the neighborhood simultaneously wants to bark.
Quit focusing on the dogs.
It's hard.
I think that, okay, well, we're going to skip over the dogs.
A very distractible person like myself.
Do you like to be, you probably do not like, so like you were talking about, like, you can't really put a definition behind what kind of artist he is. Like, is he an abstract? Is he a whatever?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be coined as this type of artist, an abstract artist, or a, like, whatever kind of art it is? Or do you feel like that's pigeonholing you and restricting you? Like I feel like some people really like to have that title or that specificity, but some people think, like, don't put me in the box. And I feel like most artists are like, don't put me in a box.
Honestly, I feel like what I do is kind of what I do. And there's certain works that I make that are very much in a category. But as my art evolves and shifts, the category is going to shift with it.
Yeah.
And so there are artworks that I make that are a little abstract, and there are some artworks that I make that are a little bit pop. There's artworks that I make that are a little bit surrealist. There are some works that, and again, it's just kind of a smattering all over the place. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, I would not call myself an abstract artist. I would, yeah, I wouldn't.
You don't like to be pigeonholed.
Well, and I think that the artwork is what it is. And as an artist, I want to make the artwork that I'm compelled to make at that time. And to me, it's more of a marketing thing. It's like if I'm a watercolor artist, then I can get in with other watercolor artists and I can join watercolor artist groups and I can show in watercolor artist galleries and I can be involved with watercolor artist things. But if I'm outside of that and I do some watercolor, but I also do these other things, well, all right, you're in that group, but you're not in that group, and then you're kind of in the,
Yeah, what is that? Master of, there's a thing like the saying, master of nothing. It's like
it's a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I was gonna let you struggle with it, but then I thought we don't have
nice.
We don't have time to
jack of all trades and master of nothing. Yeah,
of none, not nothing.
Master of none.
But I think that, and again, I hate that I say, I think that I just hate that. I hate that I say that. I think I rely on it. It's like saying,
not to jump back and forth and things, but now that you said that about the now I'm listening to myself say the Mount Rushmore and being an earthworks. Like, so give me some other, like, I never thought about that. To me, like, the ultimate earthworks that no artist did, which granted I have not traveled very much, but like I will never forget the moment I was driving through South Dakota, the Badlands. Like, you're in South Dakota, flat, nothing, boring, worst, like, want to fall asleep and sleep through. And then
not Nebraska.
You get, well, same thing with Nebraska.
It's not Iowa.
But all of a sudden you get to this place in the middle of nowhere, and it is the most beautiful piece of art. Like, it's just great. It is just the craziest. Like, where did that come from, and why is that there?
But
and
that's like a natural.
I know no one. It's
phenomenon.
Just like Earth's art is what it is. Just natural. But I mean, if you have not been there, that is like. Yeah. And again, in the middle of nowhere, you have to drive for hours.
Right.
And I'm sure there's places like that all over the world that I haven't been, but.
For sure. And I mean, you can look at caves and mountains and all of these other things and be impressed by what nature has created. But I think that the idea of the earthwork is that manipulation of rocks and dirt and things,
land,
and saying, okay, I'm going to turn this rocks and dirt and stuff into art. And if you look at someone like a Robert Smithson, he goes out and he creates a jetty in the middle of a lake, or he creates a pile of dirt in the middle of a desert, or he creates this artistic expression using just what's there, and then leaves it,
right,
and lets nature devolve it into the earth, just like everything. It's interesting. We may have talked about this before, but it's like they say, if everybody just packed their things and moved out of a city and just blocked it off and just said, we're going to let nature reclaim this, within a couple of years, the buildings would fall down. Within the grass would overgrow, the structure would start to decompose. This would happen, that would happen, and eventually, slowly, but over a span of time, things would collapse, things would sink in, and nature would just swallow up what was there, and it would become overgrown with
people
nature.
digging it up
Right.
millions of years later.
And so it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, I mean, is the dirt going to go back over the concrete, and is the grass going to start to grow back over where there was this nice sidewalk, and is the bridge going to collapse, and is the, you know, I think that the same thing is true for art. There are lots and lots of drawings and paintings that have been destroyed by nature, whether that's, you know, a flood or a hurricane or a tornado like we've experienced, in the Midwest here the past couple of weeks. We've had these horrible, in Iowa, we've had several horrible tornadoes. I know Texas has experienced a lot of tornadoes.
Uh-huh.
And you have these natural events, whether you're talking about a hurricane or a tornado or whatever it might be, that just kind of say, okay, we're going to, not only is it destroying buildings and stuff like that, but it's
Homes.
also, but you also got pieces of artwork. You've got drawings and paintings and those sorts of things that are also, okay, well, what do you do with this destroyed piece of artwork that has gone through a tornado? Well, it's pretty much gone. I mean, there's really no reclaiming that. And the there's no wonder that lots of artists that made drawings and sketches, they're very, very, I mean, they're very few and far between, because, the longevity of paper is a whole lot less than the longevity of
Iron or metal or
right,
something like that.
yeah, like a cast bronze sculpture. It's just different. um a cast bronze sculpture is going to last for a few thousand years. Rodin is going to exist a whole lot longer than my drawings on a map. um and that's okay with me. But anyway, it's the way it goes sometimes.
Well, and that, like, I've thought about that a lot of times when, like, you get a piece of art, or we talk about a piece of art that's been around forever and ever and ever, like for the longest time, and
Right.
then people have came in and removed like what has been added to it, or there are
Removed what has
pieces of
been
art,
added
like,
to it. What do you
oh
mean?
gosh, I don't know that I could give you an example, but like, or they've added layers to it, or
Okay.
what is the, oh man, we talked about this, but like, they've fixed the, they fixed the pieces that have been around forever, and then when
Right.
does it not become like, because then at that point it's not the artists. I don't know, I just,
Well, you could look at something like, and I don't know exactly if this is what you're talking about, but I think this is an example of what you're talking about, perhaps. Leonardo da Vinci created The Last Supper.
okay, yeah,
And it's a fresco that's very, very delicate. It's about as thin as an eggshell. And the way he made it was very much an experiment. He was always experimenting with media. He was always experimenting with what he was doing. And so what he was attempting to do with that particular painting was he was attempting to mix the vibrant colors of oil paint with the process of fresco paint. So basically he's trying to combine oil and media, water-based media with oil-based media. And it did not work, and they pulled apart and it started to fall on the floor. And it, within his own lifetime, it was breaking and peeling and falling on the floor. So he's like, all right, I'll come back and I'll fix it. And so within his own lifetime, he came back and fixed it. And time has passed, and then he was no longer there. He was no longer around to fix it. And so they relied on other artists to come and fix it. And there is a large percentage of The Last Supper that was not painted by the hand
right,
of Leonardo da Vinci. And now, because so many years and decades have passed since the time Leonardo painted this thing, what we see now is only a fraction of his work by his hand. It's
Yeah.
mostly the redoing of the work. It's a retracing of the work by other artists trying to make
And to
his
me, I'd
trying to keep
rather,
his thing around, his legacy around.
I get that, but to me, I'd rather see the original piece that he did, even if it's falling apart or it's whatever, like
Right.
preserve it in the way that he did it instead of people trying to.
Well, that's what art restoration is. I mean, there's a lot of people that have botched. It doesn't take a very hard Google search to find botched art restorations. You'll see all kinds of things that are like, holy crap, like this person took a decent piece of artwork, and because they were unskilled, because they were untrained, because they didn't know what the hell they were doing, they took something and they destroyed it. And that's a shame, but it's also a piece of mastery when a true professional art historian restorer is able to go into a piece and keep that thing around, not just for the duration of the lifetime of the artist, but for hundreds and hundreds of years for others to enjoy. And I think that, for example, had those art restorers not done that, we would not even know what the Last Supper was today. It wouldn't even be around. And that's a piece of cultural identity. That's a piece of our cultural makeup of that particular painting. How many grandmas and grandpas have a copy of the Last Supper on a piece of paper or
I
a
have
print
my
or a
grandma's
canvas
plate
or a
in my
plate
bedroom.
or a piece of wood or something
Yeah.
where they've reclaimed it, they've redone it? How many churches have copies of that thing over and over and over again? And that's not to say that we can't tell that story in other ways, and it's been repurposed so many times. But had that not been around to repurpose it and recopy it and do all of those things, I think that would be a cultural, I mean, that's a big part of our society. um
I mean, I'd rather the
but
original piece, whether it's worn or whatever, and I don't know.
well,
Now we have
we
the
can agree
ability to
to disagree.
capture. Oh, now you're going to agree to disagree,
I
even though
hate
you
that
don't
phrase.
normally.
I
But we have the ability to capture it now, and
Yes.
you could still keep that captured piece, picture or whatever around, but let that piece remain without people touching it. That's what I would rather see.
but that hasn't historically been true.
I understand that. I'm saying now we have that capability, whereas we did not before.
Correct.
Like, we can take this picture of it in great depth and great detail and have that, and
Well,
yeah.
but we could also utilize science and technology not just to capture an image of it, but to say, okay, well, there's an acid in that paint that's causing that color to wear down. There's a soot on that painting. Let's clean it. Clean it properly. There's and again, you could go back to, like, for example, we could talk about going to the Renaissance, sticking with the theme of the Renaissance. Michelangelo Buonarroti created the altar of the Last Judgment in the Sistine Chapel. He painted the ceiling, he painted the altar. Well, after he painted the altar, there was a particular pope that did not like the fact that there was a lot of nudity on the altar. So they said, "Hey, you know what? Let's cover that up. Let's paint a little, a little drapery over that, and let's, cover up some of that skin." And now people were able to go in and say, "You know what? We can take that layer of paint off and bring it back to what it
But
was."
can you? You can really just take that particular layer of paint off
And keep the rest and bring it back to what it was in Michelangelo's original vision.
well, that's what I'm saying. I would rather it, even if it gets like old and tattered and whatever, I would rather see the artist's original vision, not
And
what someone else interpreted. Just like, yeah, I'm not
and
gonna
you
say
can
that.
and
I'm
you
just gonna
can
say,
you could look back on like old textbook versions of the Last Judgment and the sealing of the Sistine Chapel. And since then, it's been cleaned and restored, and the colors are vibrant and pop and all of that. Well, why did it get so dingy? Why did it get so dark? Well, because they had to heat that building, and they heated it with wood, and this wood made soot, and the soot went up in the thing, and I mean, it's just like you go into somebody's home who's like a chain smoker, and then you look at their walls, and it's like, yeah, their walls, they used to be white. You take the picture off the wall, and it's like the wall is yellow except this little square where that picture was, and then it's like, oh, there's white under there. And it's like, that's filthy nasty. Well, you know what, you can still go in and clean that, if you so chose.
Let me on in.
Anyway, well, we've been doing this for, we're pushing an hour, give or take,
dogs and all,
with dogs, helicopters.
It's now finally starting to quiet down,
and now it's starting to clear. The sun is and of course the sun is going down, but we wanted to make sure we got in an Art 101, Art 1-on-1, I guess this is. We have not missed an opportunity to go and produce something, so I don't know. We'll see how. We may have to come up with a plan B in the future, because the animals and the things.
See, but this is my favorite, sitting out here on the deck. Just
I know it's nice to be outside in the sun and the thing and the beauty and the dogs and the helicopters and the race cars, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It would be different if we were out in the woods or we were out camping and it was decent and quiet. It's a whole other thing with
people are
in the city.
People are resilient and flexible. I think it's okay.
I'm not as resilient as you. I'm not as resilient as you think that I am. But
well,
maybe
you have a hard time focusing. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's it too.
All right.
So anyway, make sure you like, share, subscribe, send it to your people, and
send it to your
people. Seriously, there's a little button down there, and it says there's like a link. I don't know exactly what it's like. Says share, and it's like a little arrow. It's like a hook.
Yes, you share your videos with me all the time,
and I say, hey, exactly. Like I tried to get you to watch the one on Jack the Ripper, and you're like, I'm not watching Jack the Ripper.
I'm still not watching that one.
So, well, maybe you'll have to watch it until
I'll share it with somebody else. So
Jack the Archive.
I bet Peyton would like it.
I've already sent it to her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, sure did. She said she watched it, but she didn't know how to hit the like button, which I have a hard time believing.
I don't think so. I think she's feeding you a line. All right. Well, everyone, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
And now I come over here and I push this button, just like, where'd it go? Like that.